I got a question from a viewer the other day, and this viewer asked me to address this issue. I think that this issue is coming up a lot right now during the COVID crisis, and that is, what are people to do about exchanging for parenting time, especially now that summer is here in the United States? What are they to do if the child is supposed to be flying either across the country or, in some cases, in the case of this viewer, across the world or to another country? And it's an interesting question. I actually have a hearing on a very similar issue tomorrow. And I don't know how the judge is going to decide, but I can describe the scenario for you. And so the situation that this viewer described to me in her message, or his, I don't know if it's a he or a she, to be honest, was that the viewer and her ex live in a different country. The child is supposed to, under the parenting plan, go to see the ex in a different country. And because these two parties live in different countries, that exchanging the child is going to involve a lot. There's going to be at least one layover, which means that the child and one of the parties is going to be in 3 different airports. And the flights are long. I don't really know exactly how long. But the viewer who asked the question was very concerned about the risk being posed to the child, who would have to go through 3 different airports, have a layover in one place, and then be on an airplane for a long period of time. The viewer was very concerned about the child and thought that the risks were just too much to put the child on a plane. And the viewer is obviously very distressed, and I understand that. Well, okay, so Scott says he's playing it safe and not exposing his son to the risk of catching it. Airports and airplanes are the best place to catch something. Scott, I have to give you some kudos for that. And above all, you guys, I always want you to remember that the most important thing is the best interest of the children. The best interest of your child is the most important thing. So there's 2 schools of thought. People who are playing it safe and they're going back to eating in restaurants. I heard there was even some NASCAR race in some state, and that people 2,500 showed up for that. And then there's other people who are really being more cautious. They're still sticking close to home. They're very conscientious about wearing the masks. Then there's people who, really are interested in this herd immunity thing, which I don't know a lot about. So it's very difficult. It's a difficult situation. But, the bottom line is that this virus, I think it's indisputed, is killing people. People are dying. There's no denying that. Tens of thousands of people are dying. In Arizona, every day our number of cases increases by the hundreds. And we also have, a handful of deaths at least every day. Other cases are less than others. And I think weeks ago or a month or 2 ago, people were thinking that our children were largely immune to this, or that they were recovering fairly quickly. So there was less concern about the kids and the effect that COVID would have on them. But now, in the last few weeks, this evidence has come out about the children who did contract COVID, and they are now having these inflammatory issues. And I know at least a couple of them have died. So it's very scary. I know that I will do everything in my power to protect my child and my husband. My husband's 57. He's no spring chicken. I'm about to be 50, so neither am I. But I really want to do everything in my power to protect them from contracting this virus. So always think about the best interests of your child. I don't care what parent you are or who you are, and the risks that you're exposing them to, and the potential damage that it could cause long term to either you or the child. If you're the parent who wants the child to be put on an airplane, consider what if you got sick, what if, and what if your child lost you because you got sick, or what if your child got sick? Could you live with the consequences? And if you are the parent who's opposing the child getting on a plane, really examine the reasons. Are you looking at this as a way to deny the other parent of time with the child or not? And look at, are there other alternatives to getting the child from one place to another? Because in many situations, it is possible to drive. Not in the situation of intercontinental flights from one country to another, or if you're not living in the 48 contiguous states, it may not be possible to get in the car and drive. So what is best for your child, and are they safe where they are? People often come to me and they say, tell me what to do, Wendy. I want you to tell me what to do. And I will never, ever tell a client what to do. I can't do that because it's not my life. It's not my kid. It's not my case. And I'm not the one that's going to live with the consequences of the decision. Only you are. But I will tell you that if you're the parent who doesn't want to send the child for the other parent's parenting time, probably one of the best things you can do to avoid getting into trouble with the court down the road is filing some sort of motion, a motion for emergency temporary orders. And about a month and a half ago, all of our courts were shutting down, hearings were being canceled, things were getting pushed off. I understood that emergencies were still being filed. I can tell you that things are starting to get rewound here in Arizona. I had a hearing yesterday and I have another hearing tomorrow, actually, the hearing on the issue that we're talking about right now. So I encourage the parent who doesn't know what to do to file something with the court. If you are sharing joint decision making with the other parent or joint legal custody, remember that you have to co-parent, and making a unilateral decision is not co-parenting. Another thing is, I know that in Arizona and in at least one other state, they have issued guidelines for parenting time during this COVID crisis. In fact, I actually made a little PDF that you can go to and you can grab at commandthecourtroom.com that gives you guidance on parenting time during the COVID crisis. You know, at least in Arizona, the parenting time guidelines talk about makeup time, and, you know, perhaps if one parent's being deprived of time, there might be makeup time down the road. If you're insisting on makeup time, think about when and whether that makeup time is appropriate. You may not be able to get your makeup time right off the bat. So I'm seeing comments fly by. She's concerned about the child not seeing one of the parents for an extended period of time. And that is a real concern, you guys. You know, if you're the parent who says Scott looks like is not gonna fly, there could be an effect on the child, and hopefully both parents can work together. There are ways, thank God, these days, of you actually seeing your child like you and I are seeing each other right now, even though you can't be in the same place. And nothing is the equivalent of being able to hug your child and love on your child. I totally understand that. But, you know, being able to FaceTime with your child and talk with them on the phone or on Zoom is really better than nothing. So if you're the parent that's not going to see the child, or if you're the parent who's not sending the child, you really should be doing everything. And I think it's recommended in a lot of the guidelines. You should be doing everything you can to facilitate frequent contact between your child and the other parent. If you are a parent who shares joint decision making, then in my opinion, you should also be frequently communicating with the other parents about what's going on in your child's life. If the child can't go back and see the other parent during the summer break. And that means giving regular updates, you know, and encouraging the child as much as possible to communicate with the parent. So, you know, this is really uncharted territory for everybody involved. And I think judges, in their everyday jobs of being judges, they're dealing with matters that are so important and really that affect the life of families. I mean, you know, the lives, current lives and future lives. But with the COVID crisis, we are talking not just about life in terms of us living. We're talking about judges' decisions could be affecting the actual lives, meaning a person dying or not dying. And it's a difficult decision. So as much as possible, I would not put it in the hands of the judge. I've heard the saying, my husband's told me the saying, and maybe it's from sports or something, that you shouldn't give it to the judges. And I feel that way as a family law attorney. As much as possible, you know, when you're dealing with your kids and your family, don't put it in the hands of the judges if you don't have to. And there are some cases where, you know, you have no choice because you're co-parenting with a narcissist, or you're co-parenting with somebody who's extremely high conflict or who won't talk, refuses to talk. And sometimes it has to go to the judge because this other person won't talk to you. That really should be the last resort, you guys. There's no easy answers when parents live far away. You know, I think the risk is really high of flying. If it is possible to take ground transportation, you can. In the case of one country to another, you really got to evaluate it and put your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your selfishness as a human being, your grudges against the acts aside, and think about what's best for your kid. Because, you know, I'm sure all of the people watching this would feel really horribly if something happened to their child, if their child contracted it and they got sick. And I can't tell you what to do, you guys. Remember, you, as much as you can, communicate in writing with the other parent. Our Family Wizard, and I know there's like Talking Parents. Those are really good apps for talking with each other. I hope that answers a lot of the questions that are coming up. It's difficult. I know this COVID thing is difficult. If you're the parent who's having to go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months without seeing your child, I sympathize with you. You got to hang in there and you have to have faith, that you're going to get to see your child again when it's safe.